I'll edit this out if you don't want to answer. How much money do you spend on quiz ads every month?
I mean, we're probably around 300 grand, something like that on average.
Wow, huge. Basically, you are the biggest believers in the quiz that you could possibly be. Your entire business is based on a quiz. Hey everyone, I'm here with Dave, President and COO of Bambu Earth. Bambu Earth has really been a pioneer with quizzes in e-commerce and leveraging a quiz funnel. Very recently, they have switched from using Typeform for their quiz to Octane AI for their quiz. And I'm super excited because now we finally get to work with them. And Dave, I'm really excited to learn, why did you switch from Typeform to Octane AI for your quiz? How do you use quizzes, and why are quizzes so important in the way that you've created your entire strategy? And what does your quiz strategy look like? What is the purpose of your quiz? What do you do with the quiz data? Do you send emails afterwards? Where do you promote your quiz? Is there anything else interesting when you think about quizzes? So these are the things we're going to go over. Dave, welcome. Yeah, I guess first, introduce Bambu Earth and why, how long have you been using quizzes?
Sure. So yeah, Bambu Earth is a natural skincare brand. We're primarily a direct-to-consumer skincare brand. We're in the low eight figures in terms of size, and we've been using quizzes since I've been here. So I've been working with the brand loosely for about 4 years, and I've been dedicated full-time on the brand for 2 years. And it's been here and been kind of a cornerstone of the acquisition strategy for that whole time. And it's always really driven value for us in terms of our acquisition.
Why have a quiz? Are there certain, why do people take your quiz? Why is it important for you to even have a quiz? Are there leaks in the customer journey if you didn't have a quiz that a quiz kind of plugs?
Yeah, I think there's two sides, two parts of it, the reason why I have a quiz in skincare in particular. And I think that these could be generalized for other companies looking to decide if a quiz is good for them. And so I think the two main benefits that we get from the quiz is, one, I think skincare overall is a generally confusing thing to buy. And very often, a lot of the companies take for granted that their customer base, they might know what a cleanser is, they might know what a toner is, they might know what a moisturizer is, but that they know the kind of ideal combination of those to create a routine for their skin is actually a huge leap. So we very often find that customers are kind of just looking at individual products like, oh, should I use this? Should I use this? And I'm kind of considering it in a bubble of this one product, should I use it or not? And not really considering a full routine end to end, which each of the products in a routine really does something specific and it does something for your skin type. And so that's why our quiz works really well, is it's able to sort of take their hand a little bit and guide them to the right products for them overall. And then the second attribute that I think is good. So attribute one is it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it on the consumer side and helps be that guide in a industry with a reasonably high degree of uncertainty. And then two, the other thing that it does for us in terms of the consumer is, because it's an industry with a reasonable amount of uncertainty, it also is a huge confidence boost that I'm buying the right thing. That if you've bought into our overall ethos and positioning that, natural whole ingredients are what you want, that you want to nourish your skin rather than try to fix it with toxic ingredients, etc. If you've bought into that, and now it really is, I want to be confident that this is addressing my skin concerns, and I want to just be comfortable with the price. Those are the kind of last dominoes to fall. And so we find that it's funny, the way that we find this is like when we screw something up on the quiz, like if you screw up, we're showing the wrong recommendation to the wrong cohort, or it's missing a product, you find out how important those descriptions or those details are, because they really do read the output and say, okay, this is for me. And if you break that belief that they've been given a customized recommendation, then the benefit in that conversion rate really breaks down. So those are the two areas that I think that it provides a lot of value for us, and the reason why I think they're really powerful in skincare in particular.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think skincare is definitely gets a huge benefit from concierge style shopping experiences, because it's very common that, a potential customer could show up, they could have hundreds of dollars ready to go. They have set aside hundreds of dollars ready to go on this category. They already believe that they would like to improve their skin and be healthier, but then they show up and they're so confused and they're so scared that if they get the wrong thing, it could actually have adverse effects, and they need more confidence. So a quiz really helps with that.
And I actually think one of the words you use there is really important, is like concierge, is like there's estheticians, like there's a whole industry around fitting you with the right product. And so estheticians and spas and that professional services industry, if there's an industry around making sure you buy the right product and professionals around that, that's probably a good area where you can say like, okay, what is the logic? Can we make that like Boolean, if this, then that, and then build it into a quiz and get some 80, 90% of the value of that like expert recommendation in sort of digital, highly scalable format. And so, yeah, I think that's true for skincare. And I'm sure it's true for, a stylist or a beauty consultant, like other industries as well, where that's portable.
Yeah, we definitely see it with things that are consumables. You will really want to make sure that whatever you're consuming is the right match for you, or gift buying, or anything health related, or even anything related to like, kids or babies where you can't necessarily ask them what is right for them and you kind of need to talk to an expert of that. Or jewelry is another good example. It's like a high priced item. If you were to go into a store, somebody would be helping you, but online you're kind of, faced with a very large collection, but
Yeah.
nobody to help you figure it out. Okay, so then you were previously using Typeform for a really long time. Typeform is obviously a very, very good product. It's a very successful company. They do very well. I use Typeform. I love Typeform. I think the way that we look at Typeform is it's very flexible. You can use it for a tremendous amount of different things, ranging from data collection to quizzes, but it's not built specifically for quizzes, and it's definitely not built specifically for Shopify or Shopify Plus merchants. Whereas with Octane AI, that's what we've kind of carved out our niche as we are not a generalistic form builder. We are a
Yeah.
very high-end, beautiful, deeply integrated product quiz builder platform for specifically Shopify and Shopify Plus stores. So what kind of did you start running into things that you couldn't do with Typeform? Like, were there some sort of limitations?
Yeah.
What was the trigger that made you think maybe we should switch from Typeform to something else?
Yeah, and so I'm a big fan of like an overall ethos or approach to technology in DTC or in e-commerce in general, being that we are first and foremost not tech companies. And because I come from a decade of agency experience and people asking me to build things custom and not realizing the cost of custom is typically 5 to 10x whatever you estimate, because people always underestimate the initial build and then they always dramatically underestimate the maintenance cost of it. And so, like I said, the Typeform was implemented before I was even there, and I defend it as like an initial solution because it's like a great, really good MVP out of the box that got you to very well proven that this is like a very financially solution for us. But ultimately, what you just said is really true, is that it's a very generalist solution that you're essentially trying to cobble into a specialized solution for quiz and commerce versus Octane, which is very much built as a specialized solution for quiz and commerce and connected to the tools we use, Shopify, Klaviyo, etc., out of the box. And so that was the number one reason for the move actually was a technical replatform. And so what I actually wanted to do on day one was rebuild status quo in terms of UI UX and rebuild it with a better technical underlying so that we could then reduce the cycle time on improving the quiz. And so actually I think that cycle time or kind of feedback loop time in business is a super underrated metric. And so if my cycle time on being able to iterate on my quiz and drive better and better personalized recommendations and better handle that quiz output, as well as, I think about it as pre-quiz, in quiz, after quiz, those three parts, the faster we can go through those loops of optimization, I'm going to outrun competitors in terms of what I'm going to be able to do and ultimately just be able to scale my business better. So for us, it was mainly that. And so I started really kind of blue sky of like, okay, Typeform is limiting in these couple ways, made kind of a most important wish list. So like integrations out of the box were critical for me. We were using Zapier to bridge the gap between Typeform and Klaviyo. We're on Recart SMS, and we actually just didn't have, we played around with some like custom JavaScript listeners and they were sending them over, but there was easily like points of failure. And so what I always want to have is, you're my vendor, okay? I have an account manager there. I can go to you and say, hey, the thing you promised me is broken. So like there's a responsibility versus who am I going to go to? Typeform, Zapier? Come on. Like Klaviyo, it's just that anyone can shift the blame, and ultimately like I'm stuck footing the
Yep.
bill of the problem, so to speak, whether that is an opportunity cost or real cost.
I
And
think by the way, like a great example of this is like, we do have a deep connection to Klaviyo, but we do
right,
not currently have a deep connection to Recart. But
right,
because you switched over to Octane and because you need
right,
Recart, I can tell you Recart is the top of our list on our integrations, and we're
right.
doing that because you needed that. And for us, if you were going to calculate this from a cost perspective, we have a team and teams are on salaries and people cost money. You can break it down to a per hour cost. And we are actually going to be investing real dollars on our side to
Of
making
course.
this recart integration happen. But the great thing is you don't actually see an increase in cost because
Oh,
of
yeah.
our increase in cost.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes SaaS gets a bad rap, but the crux of the argument from an economic standpoint is that you're going to spread that integration cost over 100 customers versus me shouldering it and then shouldering the ongoing maintenance of it. And again, like those things are expensive out of the box. I know it. But like to be able to do that, build something stable, build something that is like maintained anytime their API updates, anytime your API updates, like it is, you know, always underestimated on the build side versus the build versus buyer, build versus rent analysis. And so for me, yeah, I knew that you guys would do it as part of like, you know, or prioritize it in terms of like part of my onboarding. So I was able to like take one integration that was run through middleware, another one that we basically didn't have, and then make them first party integrations through you that we can now just go to you. If there's any issue, you know, you're the accountable party and I can go to you. So that's thing one. And then thing two was the way we used to handle the output pages was just very much just kind of rigged with the setup that we could in Typeform. And it was like inside the quiz, we just mapped it to 16 result pages and then it was a different button. And so like that's very fixed, very manual. There's 16 individual templates. So like if we ran an A/B test, we updated 16 templates and then tested them. And now what we do is your product was more extensible. And so we're able to grab the data that like as a packet, like as an XML structured, perform whatever logic we want on it, and then proceed to a results page. And so like another thing that happened is it like centralizes all of the logic to a single point. And so like I've created a document that is like, here's our documentation. And so in plain English, like you know, pseudo plain English, right? Like someone quasi technical can read it. It has pseudocode in it that basically shows you the if then that sort of thing. And so we have that hard documentation. It's in a single point instead of actually needing to maintain it in multiple points, where we used to maintain it also in Klaviyo and reconstruct the URL based on the same logic. And so if you change something, you're changing it in like four. And so that's what I mean about cycle time is like you had sort of this house made of toothpicks that you're afraid to touch. And so then you think about this as like everyone talks about like landing page optimization, CRO, and you're afraid to touch it, you know? So like, obviously this is something we need to burn down and not be afraid to touch it. A lot of tech companies talk about like the onboarding process and the speed to somebody actually committing something to production, right? And so like, for me, the speed to committing an idea to production, we have a CRO idea. We want to better show before and after images based on your inputs. We want to personalize the video based on a variety of different inputs. And I don't mean like AI generated. I mean, we have a catalog of hundreds, thousands of hours of customer content showing the right clips to the right people, showing the right proof to the right people. And so reducing that cycle time so that you're not afraid of like this frailty of it and only implementing in 1, 2 spots makes a much more scalable process that's ultimately going to result in better and better and better performance from that quiz.
How much time do you think, how much faster can you kind of make improvements now that you've centralized it on Octane versus before with Typeform? Like if you were to quantify it with like a X multiplier.
I mean, first of all, it unlocked things that were just either not possible or the structure for which would have been categorically insane. Like doing more dynamic things over 16 templates is you're gonna
Just impossible. Your head's gonna.
yeah, you hit a level of maintained complexity that is simply not manageable.
Yep.
It actually hits a degree of complexity that just doesn't make sense to manage. So there's some portion of it that you can't say an X because it just essentially wasn't doable, but probably somewhere in the like 2 to 3x speed range of like implementing an idea. And I mean, a single UI versus, you know, and I'm sure we'll actually improve the cycle time further because a good portion of it is our own technical infrastructure. It's the way we're using you to extend to us.
Yep.
And so I'm sure we'll actually improve our ability to update because, you know, at that point, it's us just updating like the template of a page and our own JavaScript redirect logic. It's like the cycle time is really based on how good our structure is at that point. We're using your tool to extend it. And so we're really the limiting factor rather than our tool, which is where you want to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think what you were also saying about some people when they set up quizzes, they do like they try to make sometimes as a first attempt, they try to make a unique results page for every possible combination of answers.
Yeah.
And if you have a lot of questions and you have a lot of answers, you know, you could be attempting to make 100 different results pages.
Sure.
Whereas this is something we've spent a lot of time on over many, many years at Octane is building in the tools that allow you to get really dynamic. And so you could get away with having one results page, but having many, many different combinations of titles and texts and combinations of products. You can have logic on individual products that says show this product in this situation, but don't show these products in that situation.
Yeah.
If they're allergic to this, then don't show this product. And
And
you can get you can make a much more dynamic experience and manage it much easier than if you were to make like 100 different results pages.
yeah, because if you're thinking about the static number of unique combinations, you can explode really fast, which is what would have happened if we tried to manage that complexity. Like, for instance, there's a certain number of unique actual kits, and then we're getting to the point where we may slide in an upsell based on like additional concerns, like an under eye product if you have under eye concerns, or a product that addresses dark spots if you specifically have that concern. And so it's getting to the point where not only the number of permutations of the kits would have added up, but then those unique additionals would have created, it's just so fast. You can get to an
Personalization is hard. That's the reality. It's like there's not two types of customers. There's like a near infinite amount, or at least thousands of variations of what your customers might be, especially with a product like this. I would love if you could walk everybody through what your quiz looks like and where on the site people can find it.
Yeah, sure.
And you've done like a fantastic job at also making your quiz look really nice. Like the Octane, we have out of the box design tools that you don't need to code, you don't need to do anything, you can just do it. But then what we've noticed is that larger brands who really want to care a lot about their aesthetic and they want to take it beyond what our built-in tools have, they want to use custom CSS. So I think you've used custom CSS with your quiz extensively. And then for your results pages, we power dynamic results pages out of the box as well, and you can make them look really nice. But again, if you want to go crazy with it and you want to use us for the core functionality, we have our JavaScript API where you can pull the data directly and then do some fancy stuff on the back end, which is also what you're doing. And then I think you're integrating that with your Klaviyo side as well. So you're fully leveraging the Octane AI platform, custom CSS, dynamic logic, a custom JavaScript data that you're passing over and using on your own side.
Yeah, and we're going to really push all of those things much further. But yeah, you're correct that we're doing custom CSS inside the quiz. We then run the custom redirect logic, our own written logic, as opposed to leveraging like your recommendation engine. And then we redirect to a page and fully load it with a bunch of parameters that passes information to it. And then we pass that same URL back to Klaviyo. So that goes with the customer. Even our customer service can just go look up that URL. etc. But yeah, I'll take you through real quick. So you can see that like our homepage, even again, we have some like sort of positioning statement, and then we mostly are pushing into the quiz. And it's primarily new customers that go through the quiz, because if you're going to be fit with like your routine, that's the best way to onboard with us, is to be fit with a routine end to end through the quiz. And so you'll pop into the quiz. And again, this is something that we'll test long term. Like we currently strip the nav out, and then we actually have the analytics running in the background, even though that's part of like the global nav, but we strip it out for now. And we might play with like sort of like a trim down navigation or various like versions of this. And this is something that we'll get into A/B testing, but for now we strip it out. So if you came from an ad, this is where you would land. And so the pre-quiz portion, this page, and really like ultimately like a landing page prior to starting a quiz, is going to be a big testing focus for us over the next year for sure. So to get to the starting point.
And what percentage of people who give you their email address have taken a quiz with you?
Oh, it's like even our pop-ups just push to the quiz. We mostly don't take emails outside the quiz. The quiz and checkout are basically the two ways email and SMS signups happen. And today the email field is required. That's another thing that is going to go through testing. The Typeform default UX or UI for optional fields like email was very clunky and not customizable. And that was actually one of the nicest out of the box things that Octane had in terms of like ability to skip over something optional like email. So that'll definitely be one of our tests that we'll run on the quiz itself.
I feel like this is one of the big things that a lot of most brands are sleeping on, which is you spend all your money advertising on Meta, and different platforms, and you're trying to target your ideal customer, but you obviously can't like get specifically to them. You still have to be broader than exactly your specific customer. And for most brands, when they show up on the website, maybe you only get their email address. Whereas what you're doing is maybe it's like 90% plus, you know a lot of things about them, which we're going to see in this quiz. And so the same way that Instagram or Facebook or whoever knows a tremendous amount of attributes about the people you're advertising, but you don't. When you use a quiz, you actually now own that zero-party data. You own all the attributes on every single person. And the same way that maybe Meta allows you to retarget people based on attributes on Instagram, now with quiz data, you yourself can remarket to people via email and SMS without paying for any additional ads, which is the whole, beauty of this. Like, of course, if you use a quiz, you can increase AOV and it's a great way to sell and it's a concierge and you increase confidence. But then post quiz and post purchase, you can now use this as your own little ad network where you don't have to spend any more money on ads.
Yeah, and the other thing is like when you can run all sorts of cohorted analytics that like I've looked at all sorts of like what are our conversion rates and like real conversion rates of like I have your email, did that email ever purchase, not just like single session conversion rates of like every skin type, every skin concern. You can cohort LTVs based on that. You can say are there sort of underserved where like we're not serving the, let's say, like hypersensitive skin segment really well, or we're not serving dry skin very well, or we're not serving younger audiences or more mature audiences or whatever. So you can create product roadmap from that. You can create ad roadmap, content. So like it's just a lot more information about your customer that we're used to operating with.
This is what I want to start automating, by the way, on
Mhm.
our side is like, can we automatically break down cohorts based on quiz
Cohorted.
data and then give you some sort of like
Right.
info on it? But yeah, let's take a look at the
Yeah.
quiz.
Yeah, so there's some branching logic too, like selecting dry results with like a follow-up question. How sensitive is your skin? And again, like if you think about like all these things, the dry, is there a layer of oil on top? How often are your breakouts? So we'll actually do like semi-often so we answer the next question. Again, I'm not going to ask you how intense your breakouts are if they never occur. But in this case, they do occur, so I want to know how intense they are. And I also want to know like where they're located because that actually goes to like the root cause of those. And so again, like you can form like branching logic. And I want to expand a lot more of that branching logic where it's like, oh, you've identified a concern. Let's drill in and learn more about that. And then we can better convince you that we could solve it as well as better understand what your concern is going through that. Any additional skin concerns? So this is kind of sitting on top of like your base skin type. Is there other like, under eye circles being one where like I want to get better at servicing that? And this is a multi-select attribute here. And I think this 1 to 5 with the labels here, this is some of the custom success that we're doing as a Likert scale for a lot of these, how much stress you deal with. So some of this also just feeds back to like we have an esthetician that takes a look at everything. So if anyone reaches out, some of this, like even if it doesn't drive results today, it could be like, well, you're suffering from dark spots, but you literally never wear sunscreen. Well, that's a kind of leading cause there.
Right.
And so you could look at like how much you drink water, if your skin's dehydrated and you're drinking nothing. It's like,
This is like
yeah,
if you were like had a
yeah,
physical location
yeah,
and somebody you went in there and someone was like seriously paying
exactly.
attention to you and giving you like all of their attention. But like,
Yeah,
I don't know like how many people come to your website every day, right? It's like how
right.
many people would you have to hire to give this kind of experience? It would be
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, exactly. And so then your current age, we broke this into brackets instead of like a free form response. And actually we match these brackets to mirror what Meta reports. So like Meta reports 25 to 34. So instead of doing 26 to 35, we just made it match the Meta brackets so that we can more easily
That's
compare.
smart.
But let's do like 45 plus we consider as like a mature skin. And so this is like Dave Earth. So again, this week are going to probably test at some point to make that optional in terms of skippable. Like this is here. This is definitely much better UI, UX, I should say, than the Typeform in terms of the ability to skip that sort of thing. There, you used to also have to click a button. And so what you guys just built in like a 1 second delay. We run the logic. I think it's JavaScript or Ajax. We run the logic that grabs your JavaScript packet and then, redirects. We're appending all sorts of like the personalized quiz information up top here.
This is like all the data that the quiz
Yeah.
and our API just spat out. And like again, most people don't go this crazy, and you don't have to do this to make a results page with Octane. But if you want like 100%, like you wanted 100% control, you were like, we want to
Yeah.
get in there,
Yeah.
we want to be in total control of this landing page. You just basically had the data spit into the URL. You have one layout for a page, and then dynamically query that info from the
Yeah.
URL and change what the page
Yeah,
says.
see how this is just quiz results, and then this is basically driven by that. And so like even literally the product in there is driven by a parameter in the URL. And so like this is dynamic here. This write-up is conditional based on these. So basically passed via the URL. These are all based on the kit. Here's your routine. And this is what I mean. If you screw something up in this section, people read it. Like we noticed that like it breaks the barrier of like them believing that it's recommended for them. And so like these are even saying like this is going to help you with like wrinkles, age spots, and scars. And it's saying that because you're mature and have aging gracefully as like a
Right.
considered.
It's like repeating. It's like I
Yeah,
heard you. I'm acknowledging you.
yeah.
I have these
And
things because
and
it's
here's why it's
exactly
going
for
to
that.
help you.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the confidence building that happens with this.
Right. And so you come through this and like you can anchor down. And so like this again today is like pretty static. And this is like you can see that this doesn't make a lot of sense. I just said I was 45 plus and these are, 25-year-olds and stuff. And so there's a lot on this page that we're going to get more dynamic with. And a lot of that was like getting to the technical solution so that we can better run through the options here. And so we have a custom offer built here. And in fact, this adds to cart and adds these two as scripted free gifts with a one-time coupon. So like we've really like pushed in terms of that's the optimized offer for this. And like that's been through probably a dozen tests in terms of the offer itself.
So you run most of your ads are going to like what percentage of your ad traffic is going to the quiz?
95%, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they get to the quiz, you collect a tremendous amount of data on them, data you don't even have available on the advertising platforms. And
Right.
then they get to this super hyper personalized page, which now you're constantly improving. Now you can do that at least 2 to 3 times faster. You have
Right.
full control over the design and everything here. So if they purchase, great. What happens if they don't purchase?
Yeah, they go into some flows in our backend for Klaviyo and will be recart. And again, that like we will spit back. I mean, even just immediately after the quiz, they get it. There's some quizzes where like they kind of withhold that and send it email only, but I'd much rather just put you there. But we sort of echo your results within like 5 minutes. It's really just for APIs to make sure that it's synced and make sure you don't accidentally trigger something off that doesn't have values in there. But 5 minutes after, you'll get the results of your quiz fired over to you. And that's just an email sort of echoing this, linking back to it. And then from there, we're able to start sort of pushing you through confidence builder where we can continue to address the concerns. And then we can even just start to rotate like offers. Like I have other offers where we pull in our iProducts and give you, instead of these free gifts, we're giving you these free gifts. And, there's different strokes for different folks. Like it's, some of them are going to buy into this offer, this offer, this offer. I'll even wind up sending you to Amazon. Like, okay, fine. You don't want, you don't want to transact here. Like go check out the kit on Amazon. And so it sort of goes through that sort of thing. But then, like you said, we have that data forever. And if a couple of places where we wind up using it is like, I'm developing a new product. I can even just go out cold to people who have like said, I have redness, red skin, dry, flaky skin, right? Like say I'm developing a product specifically to address that, a more specialized product. I can go recruit, 50 study participants and just send them that product and see and know that you haven't purchased from me before. How does this work for you? And like study efficacy or, receive content back um, or, just in the future, we're having a sale on this product. Who's going to be interested? Like this cohort. So like there's a lot of ways that you can continue to leverage the data, and we do in terms of like the post sign up pre-acquisition marketing.
Could you imagine running your business without a quiz and any of the quiz data?
No, not. I think it's the data really winds up being a key advantage for us, I think. And I think that we're just in the beginning stages of like leveraging it for the most important things like product and building out personas and things like that.
Some of the stuff that we're working on right now, and you can sign up for it already, but we're also at the very beginnings of it, is obviously AI and large language models are improving very rapidly. And there are little parts of the quiz experience that can be powered with those. One really specific example is on a quiz results page, you typically at the top might have a little bit of text that explains, hey, like based on your answers, like these are why we're recommending these products. That piece of text, we've been experimenting with using AI to automatically generate it for every single person who takes the quiz. And this can actually allow you to do things that previously you couldn't have, because if you allow people to enter free form text in the quiz, you wouldn't have been able to use logic, like if then statements to figure out which snippet to show, but you can use AI to take in that free text. So I'm really curious on your thoughts on that once we kind of start rolling those out more.
That was actually that exact snippet, that like paragraph there is like currently it's like constructed with a bunch of if thens and like it's multiple sentences slammed together. And I've specifically told our dev ChatGPT API, like build a prompt with the inputs and then you can get something more naturally written as an output. And so like you could build whether it is your own LLM or just leveraging a like really rich prompt.
Yeah. That's what we're
right?
using. We're built
Yeah,
directly into.
right,
We've been working with OpenAI, which is the obvious for everybody
right.
who
The
doesn't
equivalent.
know,
Yeah, yeah,
the owner of ChatGPT. We've been working with
right,
them since their first beta, so many years now actually, which is
right.
crazy. And you can create an AI quiz on Octane right now, where it actually will create the whole quiz for you. It handles all of the logic with AI for you, automatically
Yeah,
matches based on your answers with the right products, and then it does write that little note in the beginning, which can be quite lengthy. And I just talked to one of our brands that we work with, Zox, and they have like a huge selection of personalized bracelets, and each bracelet has like a little like inspirational saying on it. So they have hundreds of these bracelets, hundreds of inspirational sayings. Their quiz asks you free form text questions based on like, what do you want to accomplish this year? What do you need help with? Like, what do you wish somebody was like telling you? It uses that to figure out which bracelets have the phrases that match up with what they're saying, and then gives them a AI written
cool.
unique for every single person on like, you said you want to run, and you're like, you need someone to tell you that like you can be, you could do it. Like, we have a bracelet for you, and it's going to make sure that you
Right.
like run a lot this year. That's
Yeah.
like crazy. And we have so many ideas on like what we can do with AI and quiz that are beyond like the if then logic. Like, can we automatically break down the cohorts? Can we tell you, what the most profitable cohorts you have are, but you don't seem to be attracting many of them? So this is
Right.
probably the types of demographics you should go after, because that's going to increase like your revenue.
Right.
Can we
Like
automate?
dollar per quiz start, like
Right.
these are the highest dollar per quiz start. And, you just don't drive a high volume of them. They're only 2% of your,
Because you might not even know. Like, I think a lot
right.
of brands hit a niche or a niche on their side that's really profitable, but it's not the one they're targeting. But there is a large market that you could go target, and you just
Yeah.
have no way of knowing that if you're not collecting the data. Okay, what would you like? Do you think it's crazy that most skincare brands don't have quizzes?
I think most skincare brand quizzes are either they don't have them, and that's crazy to me, or that they're dramatically underutilizing the ability to really personalize and drive excellent results with it. Some of them have very, very token like quizzes that are heard to need a quiz. And I think it's an area where you can create real value. People pay professionals to get this advice, and you can automate it and scale it. So yes, I think it's crazy.
What would you tell these brands and even non-skincare brands about why, if they were like, why should I have a quiz?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you get a significant amount of questions of which product is right for me, then you probably should. And if it's, the more, I don't want to say the more complex the logic, the better, because you just don't want it to be a single question. Because then you should just have a better website, right? And say like, what size belt should I buy? Well, okay, measure yourself and then buy that belt. If it's that, it's going to underperform as far as a quiz. But like, as long as there's multiple criteria, then it is a great interface for quickly guiding somebody to what they want with a high degree of confidence that it's the right product.
Yeah, if you have customers who lack confidence at any point to
Right,
not know what to buy, then why do you not have a solution for that? And that
right.
solution is a quiz. Well, we are
Yeah,
very proud to be your quiz partner. I know you're going to have other ideas on how we can improve the platform. You're going to have other integrations that you want. And I can promise you that we, as a team, from the bottom up and top down, are here to be that tech partner for you so that you don't have to do that. And I know you mentioned this earlier, that you wanted to work with someone who had that responsibility. And I guarantee that we have that responsibility for you and for everybody that you work with. So thank you so much for working with us, choosing us, building your quiz, trusting us, and taking the time to talk to us about what you're doing.
great. Thanks,
Thanks,
Matt.
Dave.